Hey, welcome once again to Ventriloquist University. And we talk about different things in ventriloquism. So, hoping that you learn more about voices and puppeteering and manipulation and whatever it takes to be a good ventriloquist. And today we have Burt Dubrow with us, who was really good friends with Paul Winchell, who invented the artificial heart, invented things to do with figures or dummies, if you want to, however you know them, that other before other people did them. But before we start talking about that, we'd like to talk to Bert about him himself and like what he's done with television that brought him to Paul Winchell. So
My God.
let's do that first. Let's go for you first, like how you started out and how you got into television in the first place. You must have been someplace else doing something else.
No,
close
no,
to
no, no,
that.
no. I was born, I came out of the womb. Honest to God, my mother used to say this all the time. This is all I ever wanted to do. I never knew anything else.
Wow.
I would get up on weekends, on Saturday morning. I lived in New Rochelle, New York, as a little kid, and I'd get up at like 6 in the morning, and there was a show on. All I remember was a guy in a tractor going through fields of wheat. Now, there'd be no reason to watch that. I watched that for some reason, waiting for Howdy Doody and the Lone Ranger and all those shows, Fury.
Yeah.
So that it was always there for me. I always wanted to do it, and it was odd back then because nobody my age as I grew up, knew what they wanted to do. You weren't supposed to know what you wanted to do. You're supposed to go to school and then
Right.
sort of figure it out. I didn't have to figure out anything. It sounds pretty cool now. It was not cool then. My father used to say to me, I was like a horse with blinders on, and I would never look anywhere else. And he was right. He would say to me, what happens, the likelihood of you doing this is not a nice thing to say to a child, but the likelihood of you doing this is not very good. And I said, well, no, I'm going to do it. And thank God I
So
did.
how did that start then?
Well,
Because back when TV first started, there's guys like now you show up and you do your segment or whatever and that's it. But there's guys I know that showed up to work like it was a 9 to 5 job. Like they showed up for hours and hours. So like Bozo in Chicago, that guy showed up. He did the weather.
Right.
Then he
Back
did
then.
Bozo.
Right, right.
Then after that, he'd wipe it off, and then he did the kid show in the afternoon.
Right, right,
With,
yeah.
where he showed Three Stooges, and he would be the guy who cleans the theater. So he
that's
played
why-
another character.
That's why guys like that were so damn good, because they could do anything and they had upbringing. You don't have
Right.
that. You don't have that today. Here's how.
No, not at all.
Here's how it sort of all started for me. When I was 10, I was on the playground in school. It's true.
Interviewing people.
No. But some kid. Now, Howdy Doody was huge then.
Yeah.
It was like if you take Sesame Street and multiply it times 100, that was what Howdy was. So successful that expectant mothers, while they were pregnant, wrote for tickets to the show so that
Right.
when their kid became 3, 4, 5 years old, they could get tickets. That's successful. Anyway,
Yes.
a kid on the playground said that Buffalo Bob bought a liquor store in New Rochelle, New York. That'd be like saying Mr. Rogers was a drunk or something,
Right.
It made no sense to me. But the kid kept saying it, and I said, where in New Rochelle? I lived on the south end. He said it was on the north end. And I knew there was a bus, I'm 10, that went from the south end to the north end. I left school one day, got on the bus. This is God's honest truth. And looking back on it, this was really not a good thing to do, but I did it and got off in Waikiki. That was the name of the place in New Rochelle. And there was a big sign that said liquors. I remind you again, I'm 10. And I walk in and I said, is Buffalo Bob here? And the guy behind the counter had similar black horn rim glasses and said, I'm Buffalo Bob, which I convinced he was lying to me. First of all, he didn't have the buffalo suit on or anything. He's in the liquor store. And it just didn't look like Buffalo Bob. But when he began to speak,
Yes.
he had such a distinct voice, which I'm sure you know and remember,
Yes.
that it was him. And he reached down and he gave me a color picture and he signed it to me. I got back on the bus. I went home. I didn't tell my parents I was leaving, so they almost had a search party out for me,
Yeah.
and said, "Where were you?" I said, "I was at Buffalo Bob's liquor store," and they, of course, think I'm lying. I did this several times. It got to the point there was a big glass window that when Bob saw me coming, I saw this. He'd run in the back, and the guy who worked for him would say, "Well, Bob's not here today." Well, I knew he was there, but he was annoying.
Right. Yeah.
So finally, one day my dad was going to get liquor, and I said, "I'll take you to Buffalo Bob's liquor store." And I remember him looking at my mom like, "Let's just get this over with." It was like I had a little imaginary friend,
Right. Yeah.
And so I got in his car, and I took him on the M bus route,
Yeah.
and we walked in. First of all, I think he was freaked out to think there actually was a liquor store at the end of this thing,
Yeah.
And thank God he was there. And I walked in with my father, and he yells, "Look, there's Burt. Hey, Burt." And my father turned a color that I don't think is on any chart anywhere. And I remember them talking, and I told you how difficult it was to get tickets.
Yeah.
They were in the corner talking. They called me over, and Bob said, "Listen, Burt, I know how interested you are in all this." Pulls out of his pocket, gives me 11 tickets to the Peanut Gallery.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Now I'm going back to school. I'm a hit. I'm a hit.
You're like the big.
Yeah. And we went to the show. They were taping at that point. It was on Saturday mornings, and they would tape on Saturdays and then take off for a month, whatever. And first of all, I didn't have a color set. So walking in the studio, I know you know
Nobody
this.
had a color set.
No. Well, no, there actually people did. They actually did. A couple of friends of mine did. But you'll remember this. When in The Wizard of Oz, when Judy Garland opens the door into Munchkinland, into Oz, and
Yeah.
you see that color?
Yeah.
That was me when I walked in the studio.
Oh, when it goes black and white into color.
Right.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I could not. Anyway, that began
You're-
a relationship, believe it or not, with Bob Smith. And then eventually I became his road manager. I did all the revival show.
Whoa.
Yeah. I
Well,
emceed all
wait,
the shows.
no. How is that from 10? How do you become his road manager from 10 years old?
I wasn't at 10. I just stayed in touch with him.
Okay.
I eventually went to school.
Okay. For
he-
regular school.
No, I went to college.
Did you?
Yeah, Boston.
Where did you go to college?
Graham College in Boston. It was 632 Beacon Street. It was a school for communications.
Okay.
And right down the street from BU. We had 2 color studios in 1971. BU didn't have that. So they would come down to us and see.
Wow.
So it was a pretty cool place. Anyway, I read that Bob, I knew that he was doing a college revival. Some guy, I wish it was me, but it wasn't, had the idea and brought him to the University of Pennsylvania. He was retired. So this is about showing off at 60. This is about 71 or 72. And then I read that he was coming to Boston.
Right.
So I called his brother, who I knew really well, and said, "Is Bob coming?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Would you see if we could connect?" Next thing you know, Bob called me. "Bert, how are you? It's been a long time." And we had dinner together before the show. It was live show, and there I was again with this guy in a regular shirt and black glasses, and
Yeah.
same guy from the liquor store, And then he got me tickets, so I went into the theater. And now this is in the middle of like the Vietnam War and all that.
Yeah.
So I walked in there, everybody was high as a kite. All you could smell was weed. It's all you could smell. But they were there to see Buffalo Bob. It was like, what happened to our first father image? Where was he? He's back. And it was interesting because it was like everybody was pissed off about the war, but it was like Bob was coming back to say, everything's okay. You're my kids. Everything is okay, right? So I didn't know what to expect. I'm sitting there, the lights come down, and some MC comes out and says, "You're going to see an hour kinescope of the Howdy Doody show from 57, 58, and all the characters go. Phineas T. Bluster, the Flubadub, the Inspector, Dilly Dally. I know it means nothing to you, Landon, but all these characters, right? And everybody's cheering because nobody heard the word Flubadub for like 12 years. No one heard that.
Yeah.
Anyway, the kinescope runs. Now, for the people that watch this and remember, Hostess Twinkies and Hostess Cupcakes were a big sponsor, and that back then they would do live commercials.
Right.
And the commercials he kept them in the kinney. And there was Bob with a Hostess cupcake in this kinescope. And as soon as, you remember this at all? He picked up the pointer to show the cream filling, and the place goes nuts. Nuts.
Yeah, because they cut it in half.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so anyway, it was over. The MC introduces him, and out comes Buffalo Bob. Not the guy that I just had dinner with. Not the guy in the liquor store, but it was like Clark Kent,
Now-
Superman.
Now, was this when he made his remake of How Do You Do?
Not yet. This was before all that. This
Okay.
built up to the remake, which
Yeah.
was not taken very well.
No, that wasn't. The remake wasn't that.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that. But anyway, and he did this show, and Bob by trade was a musician. So he literally could sit at this piano and entertain you for 2 hours if you
Wow.
want. And that's what he did. I mean, everybody knew the Clarabelle song, knew the Howdy theme. He updated a lot of the words to make them a little risque.
Yes.
He had one line he did where he would start to sing the Clarabelle song, who's the
Yeah.
funniest clown in the world, Clarabelle, and he hits a flat note on the piano, right? And he goes around the piano to see what's causing this flat note. And he looks up the thing of rolling papers. And he says, that Clarabelle, you never know where he's going to hide his rolling papers. And the place goes crazy because now Buffalo Bob's hip, you know?
Yeah.
By the way, he was as square as a human being could possibly be. But at that moment. And that, I ended up on the road with him. From there, I quit school. I went home.
Wow.
Went home and told my parents, I am going to go on the road with Buffalo Bob and MC the shows and be the road manager. My father looks at me and says, "You think this is a good move for your future?" And I thought to myself, it isn't really. But I got a job in this business.
Yeah.
And that led me right into television. And
Which
everything.
it was a good move.
For me, it was. Yes.
Yeah,
it was.
absolutely.
But if I look, being a father now, having kids, if my child said that to me, I could understand how my father felt. I didn't then, but I understand it now.
So
that was the beginning.
So let's narrow it down to all the things you did, like that brought you to meeting Paul Winchell.
Okay. Well,
A lot of things? A really lot?
well, I watched him religiously. I loved ventriloquism. I loved puppets, not marionettes, but I loved I loved puppets. And I watched him with awe. I could not believe what he was doing versus, let's say, what Jimmy was doing. And I knew Jimmy, loved Jimmy, but Jimmy
Jimmy's
was
great, but
different, just different.
Paul Winchell's acting.
Yeah, that's right. Paul Winchell was like a Renaissance man.
Yeah.
Anyway, I eventually, ended up doing what I was doing, and I told this story in there that I was doing the Sally Jesse Raphael show, had a little bit of power, a little bit.
Now, did you get brought into the Sally Jesse Raphael show?
I found her and created the whole show.
There you go. Just like you did for Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, Sally, there was no woman doing a talk show. Didn't exist. Now,
That's
years
true.
ago, I can talk to you because you'll remember some of these
Yeah.
things, but years ago, there was Virginia Graham. And,
Yeah.
Right? And there was Dinah Shore, but they weren't doing those kinds of shows.
No,
there was
they
no
weren't.
controversy. There was none of that.
Now, there was a lady in Pittsburgh, this fat woman. I forgot her name right now.
Not Marie Tory.
No.
Okay.
I know who
Okay.
Marie Tory did, but
Yeah, but I'm
she-
saying nationally.
No, but she actually brought people on the show, and she could do anything, and she was fat, but she would play pool, and she was a good pool player.
But she was fat.
Yeah.
Can't even say that word today.
No, you
said
can't.
it. I didn't say it. You said
No,
it.
but I mean, everybody watched her show.
Sure.
She cooked on the show. She shot pool. She did almost
but
anything.
still, that was different.
But she was like what Carson used
Yeah.
to do later.
That's more variety.
Where they bring people on and they interact with them.
Right.
Right.
This was different. I mean, the king of all this was Donahue. All right, Donahue was the
Yeah,
man who
right.
did-
And I was on that show, not on it, but I was on Bozo, which was the theater right next to Donahue.
yeah, GN, WG.
Right.
Yeah.
So you would, in fact, I was in a dressing room. I had to go back in the dressing room because I forgot something, and Lauren Bacall was in the dressing room.
There you go.
And she's like, Lauren Bacall's really pissed that you went into her dressing room. I go, does she know that's like a community dressing room? It's like it's not just hers.
Not to Lauren
And she
Bacall.
goes, no.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what.
And I said, I'm really just tell her I'm sorry and
Yeah.
whatever. But I forgot.
Anyway, so I
was
went to the
weird.
company that I was with
Yeah.
and said, if I could find a woman, this was multimedia that owned the Donahue show, and I was doing another show for them.
Right.
If I could find a woman to do this, would you entertain this? And Walter Bartlett, who was the CEO, may he rest in peace, great guy, looked at me and said, why would you want a woman to do this? Like he did, because
Wow.
nobody was doing it. And I said, and here was my answer, really smart.
Right.
Get ready for this answer. I said, when Phil does a show with women and he's talking about the menstrual cycle, it's going to go one way. I got to believe if a woman hosts it, it's got to be different. And somehow that connected with him. We made a little development deal on paper. And The next thing you know, I'm on the show I was doing. They called me and said to me, "Would you?" This is in Cincinnati. Actually, we're here. I forgot I'm in Cincinnati. I'm here. I was doing the Bob Braun show at the time here in Cincinnati, and said, and I got a call. Sally Jesse Raphael is going to be in town. I thought it was 3 people. I had no idea who the hell this person was. She was very big on the radio. So I said, sure, I'll take her, because Cincinnati is not exactly the mecca for
Right.
entertainment,
Yeah.
So, if you could walk and talk and breathe, I'd pretty much have you on the show. So she walked in the studio or the office and looked at me and said, "You're Burt Dubrow." I said, "Yes." You're Sally Jesse Raphael. Now, it would make sense that I knew who she was, but how would she know me? Turned out that a friend of mine told her that I was doing the show and tried to get her on television. Wasn't working out. So anyway, she came and did the show. There was something interesting about her. She wasn't threatening. She wasn't beautiful. She was pretty smart, and I thought, this could be it. So Bob Braun was
She was
going.
likable.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Bob, but she'd never done anything like this. So Braun was going on vacation. Now, before I got to the Braun show, when he would go on vacation, they'd bring in people like Wink Martindale and to host the show, those kind of people.
Yeah.
Never somebody like Sally. Certainly not a woman.
And Wink Martindale became a sports announcer.
Yeah.
So
I know Wink.
that's a whole different. That's a whole different.
Oh, I can talk to you about Wink. But
Yeah.
anyway, good guy. So anyway, I brought Sally in while Bob was on vacation, because I thought to myself, I'll do a bunch of different things when they're on the show, and I'll have theoretically 5 pilots and have to not pay a nickel to do it. So I did that. I edited it together. I showed it to the company, to Walter and these people, and they all said, very interesting. Let's put something together and send it to our stations, because they own stations.
Right.
This is really, get ready for this. It comes back and he says to me, they like her, but they don't like those glasses she wears.
That's what made her. The red glasses.
Not then. And I said, and I really did say this, I said, if we ever get on the air and become anything, that will become a trademark. I literally said it.
That's the truth.
They didn't buy it. So
wow.
Sally was in New York. I was in Cincinnati. We were going to go to St. Louis to begin the show at KSDK in St. Louis. I called her husband in New York, and I said, Carl, do me a favor. Go to the optometry store and get 5 pair of the ugliest glasses you can find. I said, why? I said, I'll explain to you when I see you in St. Louis. So he got these 5 pair of glasses. I put her in front of the camera, just a medium close-up, no audio, and just put these glasses on her, another pair, and the last pair were the red ones. Took the tape under my arm, went back to Cincinnati. Just tells you how brilliant management is. And I show this tape, and they look at it, and they go, you're right. Those red glasses are not too bad. And that's how the red glasses,
Yeah.
and that is how the red glasses stayed.
That's a
I know.
great story.
By the way, I have the red glasses. I have the original.
Do you?
I do.
They didn't end up in the Smithsonian or anything.
I've been called, but we all know about the Smithsonian, and they'll end up in a basement somewhere if I give it to
Right,
them.
yeah,
so I've got them. But that's how the red glasses were.
And then talking about Donahue, Phil Donahue, he married Marlo Thomas, who was Danny Thomas's daughter, and Danny Thomas went into Mayberry and got pulled over by Andy Griffith, and that's how Andy Griffith got his own show.
That's right. Sheldon Leonard, and those guys.
Yeah.
Started it. Yeah. Can I tell you a real quick story about
What about
Danny
Sheldon Leonard?
No, about
You
Danny
two
Thomas.
pixies, get out of here through the door and out the window.
Here's a quick Danny Thomas story. So I was doing, I don't know if you know, but I did the Mike Douglas show for a while.
Right.
And for a couple of years. And the first celebrity guest that I was given was Danny Thomas. And I was excited as hell. I could not believe, I'm going to make room for Daddy. I'm going to meet him.
Yes.
So I go to the, I forget the name of the nightclub. It was in New Jersey. The Latin Casino in New Jersey. And I'm there, I bring my yellow pad, and I'm writing down all of his stuff and, his act. He was great. And it was arranged that I would meet him. I was 27
Whoa.
years old. But yeah, I know. And now it's over. And I go back, and my name is Burt Dubrow. I'm associate producer on the Mike Douglas. Oh, yes, we're expecting you. I walk in to the dressing room, and he's got, I swear to you, a smoking jacket on like he'd wear to make room for that. I did. And a cigar to me that was this big. And without me saying a thing, He looks at me and goes, I'm not doing anything for my damn act. I don't do anything for my goddamn act on television. I don't give that away. He's yelling at me.
Yeah.
What did I do? I didn't do anything. I'm 26.
You're just there.
I leave. I don't know what to do. I have the whole thing on my yellow pad and things for Mike to ask him that would get him into material. I go to work the next day scared out of my mind. Woody Frazier, who was a very, very famous guy, who was the executive producer, and we'd all have to go and say what our segments were. And I'm scared to death he's going to kill me. And he doesn't say anything. He accepts it, and everybody in the room accepts this. Okay? At 12:15, we have to brief Mike. So his producer gets up, and he's sitting at his desk. I get up, and I wrote an intro, because I could at least do that.
Yeah.
And I said, Mike, I started telling me, don't worry. Now it's getting a little crazy, a little mysterious. Why is everybody so calm with this? Show, we're taping the show. Mm-hmm. If you remember the Mike Douglas show, those doors?
Yeah.
Right? Blah, 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 blah. Please welcome Danny Thomas. Doors open. Danny's supposed to go sit down at what we called the gazebo, the talk area. Never even sat down. Grabs the microphone and starts to go into his act without even nothing. And I look over. Everybody knew this. He always did this. I did not know this. So that was their way of breaking me in.
Oh, wow.
And I was ready to kill someone. I was so aggravated. That was my first celebrity. So there's...
Yeah.
But I was embarrassed as hell. I mean, he sat there and sort of yelled at me in the middle of it, Anyway, that's my day of time. Anyway, go ahead.
So now you've gone from starting out with Buffalo Bob into Sally Jesse Raphael. Now you're doing Mike Douglas and whatever else. So how do you step in from that stuff into Winchell? Like, how do you end up meeting Winchell?
Well, since the show was doing okay, we're doing pretty well.
Right.
And I was determined to meet Paul Winchell, just as I was determined to meet Buffalo Bob.
Right.
I was going to meet Paul. So I called him on the phone. I got his number.
Yeah.
I called him. Very gruff on the phone, not the man that we know and love. And I'm not doing any television. At this point, he was all about the artificial heart. Dummies, no way. Which I knew.
He was kind of had that in his past. And
That's right.
Now that he had invented the artificial
That's what he
heart.
was. That's what
He was, fixated on
So
that.
anyway, he says, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing any television. I don't want to do any television. And I'm begging him. I said, finally, listen, if I could get Hank Heimlich maneuver, to come and do the show, because I knew they had a relationship
Right.
in the past, would you do it? You don't know Hank Heimlich. I said, but if I can get him, I did know him. Winchell didn't know that. and he finally, I exhausted the poor man. He said, if you get Heimlich, I'll do the show. So, and he's in LA, we're doing the show out of St. Louis at that point.
Right.
I call Heimlich. I said, Hank, I need a big favor. What's up? I said, I got to get Paul Winchell on the show. I tell him how much I love Winchell. And he says, you want to see Winchell? It's like, he knew. Winchell. I said, yes, please. He said, of course I'll do it for you. So I called Winchell back. I said, Hank will do it. No, he won't. I said, here's his number. Call him. I'll call you back. Called him. I called Winchell, and an hour later, he says to me, I have to meet you. He says, you sound like a very persistent young man. And
That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
I do think about it. And I remember the day, we called the show Who Really Invented the Artificial Heart? That's what we called the show.
Wow.
And
it was him, really?
Yeah, it was him. And I showed a clip tonight when I spoke of him on the Sally Show.
Right.
And anyway, we just struck up a relationship. I think he really felt my love for him. And when he left the show, and 2 days later, I got an envelope, not a box, a FedEx envelope. And in the envelope, I could see sticking out was a little foot. And it was Knucklehead, a toy Knucklehead that he had done after the Juro thing was all over.
Yeah.
And he sends me a freaking Knucklehead. And that began our relationship, and it began a 20-year relationship of, he was like a father, he was like a grandfather, he was my friend. I was with him all the time.
Well, I remember being here at the convention, you were here to talk about Winchell. And here at that convention, you brought Dr. Heimlich in for that.
I did.
So we're at the convention, and you're like, "Hey, you know, you brought in Dr. Heimlich because he went up on stage and actually said Winchell learned a lot about how to invent the artificial heart by borrowing medical books from him."
And what he didn't say was that Paul, this is while he was doing television,
Right.
he went to his veterinarian. And when they would have to put animals to sleep,
Yes.
he asked the veterinarian, what do you do with those animals after? He said, well, we dispose of them. He said, can I have them? And he would open them up.
So he's like Frankenstein.
In a bit, yeah. And see the insides and understand. That was how his mind worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Because to them, it's like somebody else working on a car.
right. Yeah. He was a genius.
Yeah.
He was a genius.
So it's pretty amazing. But at that convention, now you're coming to a ventriloquist convention because you're a ventriloquist. To me, I still talk about that convention because it was amazing to me to be there. Dr. Heimlich is there. You knew the guy from Alf, the guy that did Alf,
My best friend, Paul Fusco.
and he was there.
I brought him, yeah.
And then Dr. Heimlich introduces his wife, and his wife is into the
Catherine Murray's.
Catherine Murray's daughter, the Arthur Murray Dance Studio, super famous.
You better hope the people that are watching this are at least 90, because nobody else is going to remember what the hell you're saying.
I know that, but it's still kind of all connected, like all in the same place.
Sure.
And then people were going up because it was Dr. Heimlich, and they're asking him for his autograph.
Yeah.
And later I had to do Groucho Marx. And I said, I like your autograph, but I like it on this prescription. And he laughed really hard.
He was a wonderful guy. He had a great sense of humor, great laugh. He was a lot of fun. He was really, we used to play tennis. I knew him from the Bob Braun show because he would come on the Braun
Right.
show. You know, Winchell didn't know that, so I sort of kept that in my hip pocket, and it paid off for me.
So let's get into the Winchell stuff. Like Winchell's amazing to me because when I met him, we talked about voices and everything. I think that's why he kind of liked me because when I met June Foray, who is like the female Mel Blanc, June Foray said, Paul Winchell doesn't like people that are like stupid. Like he likes people that are fairly smart. He said he won't have anything to do with anybody.
Good, I fooled him then.
Unless they're not talking. That's a lie, Mel.
Yeah.
But yeah, he it's pretty amazing. And then I've seen things clips from his show because I do Groucho Chaplin, all that stuff, and I saw Winchell, which I've never seen a ventriloquist do ever.
You're going to talk about Chaplin.
Yeah, he does Charlie Chaplin.
Unbelievable.
And does Jerry Mahoney, like the kid in the movie The Kid, where Charlie Chaplin is with Jackie Coogan, who grew up to be Uncle Fester on the Addams Family, but when he was a kid, he was adorable looking. And
well, I mean, let's say it the way it is. He took and made it was a silent bit.
Yeah,
just music as you were watching an old silent. He did it in black and white. It made it look really, really old.
Like you're amazed because here's Paul Winchell, who's a fine ventriloquist, but his manipulation is just as good as his speaking and everything else.
Unbelievable.
And he does Charlie Chaplin, and he does a nice job. But the greatest thing is him using Jerry Mahoney and manipulating him like in a silent movie mode that they made a silent movie with.
I would say look for it on
else.
YouTube, but I'm not sure it's there. I'm not sure that particular thing.
I think it is because I think I've seen it.
Good. I mean, I remember Paul and I talked about it, and I said, I remember asking him, what the hell would make you do anything without Jerry talking? And to him, everything was easy. No, I thought of it, so I did.
Well, it was different.
Yeah, I know, but
he didn't do anything different.
Nobody else would think of that. I mean,
right.
Picture other ventriloquists that you and I might know doing that you could never picture.
Nobody.
And you're right, because you said earlier that Winchell was an actor, and he was an amazing actor. That was always Jay Johnson's point about Winchell. He was a great actor.
That's right.
Yeah, he was a great actor.
Right, and that's what Jay felt like he got from him, because when Jay had to go to do soap, he had to not just do ventriloquism, he had to act.
That's true. Yeah.
So he admired Winchell tremendously because of that.
Yeah.
But then Okay, so now, before Jim Henson and the Muppets and everything else, and I don't know if Winchell thought of it himself, or a lot of that stuff they say comes from the art of Baru, where they do. It takes two guys to work one puppet, so they move the hands and the feet and everything, like almost like doing karate, and
Yeah,
it's
but
pretty.
I know he did think of it. The first thing that Paul did was he used to entertain a lot at hospitals
Okay.
because he had polio, so he always felt compelled to do that. He was at one hospital, and as he holding Jerry and entertaining, there was a guy in the back who had a prosthetic arm, and the guy could take it's like a hook, and he would be able to lift things up, and that got Paul thinking, and he ended up putting Jerry in an arm like that. That was the first step to all this.
Ah.
As a matter of fact, Tom Lineshaw has one of those arms that Paul actually did.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the natural progression was then put gloves on him and put somebody in, and
Right.
yeah.
And sorry, said it was a midget. Is it a midget? Was it a midget?
For the hand?
Yeah.
No. It's a guy named Jay Lloyd did Jerry. A guy named Skip Ludwig, who's still alive, did Knucklehead. And what they did, though, is they had kids' gloves. And if you watch it closely, you'll see that the sport coat stops about there.
Yeah.
So you can only really see the hands. If you saw the whole thing, it would be a bigger hand.
Right. Yeah. But the kids' gloves makes it more in proportion.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So now he has, since he's using hands like Muppets would use, like ended up doing later. Since he's using hands, he can work the pole and do ventriloquism, and then they have the hands working behind it to make them look more real.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid thinking, how is this even happening? Like, how is
it makes you as a kid, makes you believe they're real.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It really does.
I wanted the relationship that he had with Jerry. I'd like to have that with my father. I mean,
Yeah.
that you believe. I mean, he
Yeah.
really did make you believe that Jerry was real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without a
Knucklehead
doubt.
Smith too, and Knucklehead Smith.
Smith, S-M-I-F-F.
M-I-F-F,
Yeah.
not Smith.
Yeah,
Smith.
yeah, Knucklehead. I once asked him, who did you like best? And you'd expect him to say Jerry, but he didn't. He said Knucklehead because he thought Knucklehead was funny. Jerry was not
was
there to be funny. Knucklehead was funny.
Well, his thing, he went the route, since Bergen was who he looked up to. So Bergen had
Mortimer.
Charlie McCarthy, Mortimer, and then Effie. So he has Jerry,
Knucklehead,
and Tessie.
Tessie,
And-
who was sort of he didn't use her that much, but yeah.
But he had one.
Absolutely.
So he would have all the bases covered.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard me when I was doing the thing in there, but Knucklehead, Jerry's eye. Jerry was all about his eyes. I mean, Jerry was all about those eyes, and
Yes.
and most bent figures, have moving eyes. And I asked him, why is Knucklehead? Why do they? His eyes don't move. What made you make that decision? He said because if Knucklehead's eyes move, it would make it look like he was thinking. And Knucklehead was not capable of thinking.
I've heard him say that,
Yeah,
actually.
it's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. He and I had a really amazing talk
Oh, good.
because of thinking about how I was trying to learn how he thinks, how Winchell would think.
That's not easy.
No, it's not.
No, he was a genius of a man.
And then he's all over the place. In fact, I asked him at the time, Al Seamock, who was still around.
My dear friend.
Our
Our dear friend.
Yeah, Al was doing Larry in a version of the Three Stooges. In fact, when the new Stooges came out, the one with Will Sasso and the new revived one, he was in that. Al Seamock did the promotions and did
Right.
Larry for.
Yeah, I know. Did personal appearances
Right.
and things. Yeah.
But he before that all happened, he said, "Bob, can you do Mo?" And I said, "I don't know. I could do a lot of voices, but I never worked on it." So now I'm on having dinner with Paul Winchell, and I said, "Hey, you did Mo," which most people don't know. So he's impressed by that. He goes, "You did Mo, and like 3 robotic Stooges, and you did them in some other Hanna-Barbera cartoons."
Right.
And I go, "How do you do Mo?" Because I said, "You didn't really sound like Mo, but it was good enough." And he said it's all attitude.
Always.
Yeah, that's what he
would
said.
say
He
that
said it's
all the
all
time.
attitude.
I mean, that was when you ask Paul Fusco, who created Alf,
Yes.
About Alf, he'll say the same thing.
Really?
It was really, yes, Alf's attitude. But Paul,
That's acting.
yeah, but Fusco also loved Winchell as we do. Same thing.
Yeah.
So Alf is all about attitude.
There you go.
Think about it for a minute. It really is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So anyway, so now we go from that to let's go into some other Winchell things besides moving hands. The tap dancing is amazing. The idea of dancing with so he sits down, and since vent figures sit down all the time, they never stand up. I mean, so he and Jerry both sit down and they both dance sitting down. So Winchell did the thing like they know who Ernie Kovacs is, who Ernie Kovacs did tons of stuff in show business and television when it first began. He did things experimenting with television that nobody did.
Nobody.
And then to me, that's what Winchell did. Winchell did the thing where he turned himself upside down.
Oswald.
He turned the camera upside down. He painted his chin, like put eyeballs and a nose here, so he would have a huge mouth. And then he put
Legs.
a body over
legs.
his head and covered his eyes with little arms sticking out and feet. Then they turned the camera upside down so he looks like he's right side up. Then he's like, "Hi there," and he just over moves his mouth and it's friggin' hilarious.
The bottom of his mouth was the top, and the top of his mouth was the bottom.
Yeah, it's really funny.
If you can
Very,
picture
very
this,
funny.
Yeah,
So that's part. Did he ever talk about that?
sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he gave me 2 Oswalds.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, the bodies that you put
Yeah.
on? Wow, that's really something.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the other thing is that besides all that, he's acting with Jerry and Knucklehead, having breakfast,
Let me tell you a little thing about that.
in bed, putting them to bed, all that stuff, waking up.
Before they shot that in Long Island, and I didn't know this. Winchell told me this. And like a week before, 2 weeks before they were supposed to begin,
Yeah.
there was a writer's strike. And so he had no writers. So all that stuff you saw, and if you think about it, was all old material from the show, from the Winchell show. That was all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there were no writers. So they had to just take stuff that they had done before. That's where that stuff came
And
from.
then redid it.
Yeah.
And then those were bumpers, really, that connected all the Three Stooges things all together to make it into a full movie after you take all the 20-minute things. I know that we're running out of time, but I wanted to talk about Winchell and all his voices that he did, because he did Dick Dastardly in
Smurfs.
Smurfs. He did Gargamel for the Smurfs. He told me Dick Dastardly was based, because I asked him to do the voice several times in front of live audiences who will just think about him doing Tigger because of Knucklehead Smith. So he said it was based on Shakespeare acting, like elocution in Shakespeare.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so that's what he based that on. He did the Ant Hill Mob and Wacky Races besides doing Dick Dastardly.
And the Banana Splits,
The Banana Splits, he did.
which was Knucklehead's voice.
Flegel in the Banana Splits was his Smurf voice, Knucklehead Smith. He did also that commercial
Scrubbing Bubbles.
Yeah. And then he was in a bunch of Disney films too, besides
Beverly Hillbillies too.
Beverly Hillbillies. Yeah, he played different parts. And then I loved him on Laugh-In, where he plays an old guy doing ventriloquism
Well,
with a tummy.
sort of a French guy.
I'm Bob Rumba. This is Burt Dubrow. We're here to talk about Paul Winchell. We did that. Thanks for watching us today. We talked about his thing in television and everything else. Also, thanks for watching Ventriloquist University. We really appreciate it. I hope you got a lot out of it. Thanks. Bye. We love you. Bye. See you in the fast lane.